My name is John Masiulionis, the manager at PR from the Heart. We are joined by our dear friend and colleague and fellow neighbor. You remember him and you love him as the beloved Mr. McFeely on the long-running children's television program, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. We know him and we love him as David Newell. Just outside of, I believe, the Long Island, New York City area is where you will find a very gifted, very caring, and the man loves to play a mean guitar, Dr. Joe Famularo, and his highly anticipated debut children's book, My IOU Life Ship. Now, Dr. Joe's name may seem familiar for the big kids watching the bookcast because Dr. Joe actually released the bestseller IOU Life Leadership, which was actually endorsed by Stephen Covey. And Dr. Joe's journey into stepping into the educational field, he always references a lot of nautical references because, again, going through his family lineage, that's something that his family really not only believed in, but that was a part of their daily lives, you know, each and every day in our own ways, just like Dr. Joe's extended family, going back through his bloodline, is that in many ways we're our own sailor, right? We have to trust our own internal compass to move forth, to make decisions, to learn, to trust ourselves. And that's one of the key messages that I really love, which, by the way, IOU, we're learning how it stands for inward, outward, upward living. So I really love the way in which Dr. Joe communicates the importance of connecting inward, how that reflects outward, and then how we can move upward with our lives. So Dr. Joe simplifies the process and really, you know, kidifies this in such a wonderful way that I think that not only children will enjoy, but it's a nautical story, David. And who doesn't love a wonderful journey to set sail to uncharted waters where the new horizon is just a few steps away.
And those uncharted waters, if you're prepared for them,
yes,
might be a little easier. And that goes back to education. And I think education runs through the whole book of how important it is.
Yes,
for education. And shall we jump right into the
let's dive into the pages of My IOU Life Ship. Let's get ready for this journey.
Well, according to Dr. Joe, everyone has a life ship. And in fact, he begins a book with these sentences, and I'll read them. It's, we are all like a ship that floats on a sea, getting ready for our journey of what our lives can be. And that sort of sums up the book in a way. But the illustration shows a young man or a boy. To me, it was more of a young man getting ready to go on his IOU ship. And he's carrying boxes to that ship, IOU. Well, the ship is a symbol for life, I believe. And is your ship ready? Prepare it well, lift your anchor, and give a heartfelt farewell. There's some nautical references. And the next illustration has a lot of nautical tools. There's a telescope, a compass, a map, and a sextant. And in the next page, the journey begins. The young man says, a journey you will never forget. And I like this next sentence. Like the first year of school when you learned the alphabet. You know, your journey really begins with the alphabet, I think. When you start to read and you can take in things for yourself. In a way, that's what the boy, he's taking in, he's prepared himself, he's going out into the world. Well, the story's in verse, but we're not going to go read it in verse, but it helps. You know, the verse reminded me of a sea shanty. You know, the songs that you sing at the sea. Somehow, I always associate boats and journeys with the musical background. I don't know why. This is in verse, and it lends itself to the story, I think. Well, as we read on, the young man waves goodbye to his family standing on the docks, and then goes to explain what IOU means. And the next three pages of illustrations has him pointing to himself. And that is the inside, that's the I. Okay. Next is holding his arms out, and that's the outward. And next he's pointing up with both arms, and the U is up. that helps us grow. So
just to mention one thing on that thread, I think this is a perfect place where if let's say that you're reading to a group of children, this is a way that there can be some interactive activities.
Yes.
Like, okay, let's all point to the eye inside us.
Yes.
Right. And then, this is the little ones remembering that everything begins with me, that I have it within me. And then the outside, how I feel about myself and how I care about myself reflects the O. And then, okay, you got the arms stretched wide. Kids love to do that.
Yep.
Arms stretched wide. And then we're growing. So kids, you're growing by doing this. So again, it can have these little affirmative statements. These exercises, they can almost be some positive reinforcement and some repetition that kids can really enjoy and
I think that's
intended dive into,
so to speak, so
to speak. But yes.
But that's a good point. That I always think when you're reading to a child or to a class or something, that it is good to be able to stop and talk to reinforce it, and that's a good point where you can stop. This book really lends itself to interactivity in a way when you read it. Well, so IOU is explained by Dr. Joe. And off the boys, he sails, feeling scared, but his family says, don't worry, your life is well prepared. And that is interesting because you're well prepared. The education, things that he's learned is well prepared. And he's going off on his life journey prepared. Well, then he wonders, which way do I go? How do I begin? And he decides he will follow his dreams, which is interesting, that are hidden deep inside. There's the eye, I guess, inside. Yes. And the book is illustrated with a swirl of colors. And as I read it, the colors move the story along. I think the colors, for instance, the blue waves and the brown wooden ship and the white cap of the waves, those colors set the story in motion, I think. I agree. And and I can see this as being animated too. I could see it as an animated story, but you could animate it very well. It lends itself to that. And a page or two later comes the author's message, I think. I learned so many things in school, not knowing the reason why, but now I see I need them all. Without them, I couldn't get by. And I read that, I put that purposely because I think, again, it's stressing the importance of education and doing it yourself. You've got to do it yourself. It doesn't magically come. Education is a discipline, I think. And the boy is ready to go on his journey. So, when life gets tough is illustrated on the next page. The wind is blowing and the water is gushing, and he can't control the wind, but he can adjust the sails. And there you go. He's learned this. Yep. This is a shout out to getting a good education, learning, taking advantage of your school years. And in every paragraph, it was a story of good discussion for the classroom teacher. I put some thoughts down here. Just the concept of the symbols in the story could be a discussion for the teacher. But as the story goes on, suddenly a whale is heading for the ship. What do I do? Will the ship flip over, thought the boy. The whale shouted, who is in charge of this tiny ship? The young man answered, it's me. I'm in charge of this life's trip. Again, education, learning to steer a boat, to guide a boat. The boat is sort of his life's progress, I think. The whale helped him get through the rough waters. And the boy or the young man says, thank you, my friend. You gave me such confidence. Now I'm ready to climb. And here's where the up comes in. He turned the sails to the sky, and the ship IOU is ready to fly fast and fly. It's going up. So here's a different perspective. This illustration shows the ship flying in clouds, and the young man says, everything is different up here. It has changed his point of view. Below, he sees the water and the people and realizes that flying above changed his life map. seeing things in a different way. He sees things from above now, taking in life, seeing things from a different perspective. And here's another one of Dr. Joe's insightful sentences. It's the journey, not the ending, that can make you happy each day.
Dr. Joe is conveying that it's important to enjoy whatever it is that you're doing every day, because eventually when you get to that destination, there's a destination after that, and then a destination after that, and then a destination after that. So to really just enjoy the journey, because that's really where the happiness is found. Your fellow neighbors who you meet along the way, the deeper and greater connection to yourself in the process. And that then as Dr. Joe continues, is that there's really so much to learn on the journey, and there's even excitement, lo and behold, excitement and fun.
The young man learned so much on his journey, and he can't wait to sail back and tell his family tell everyone all about it. And the illustration on this page has a red and white striped lighthouse with a yellow beam leading towards home and family. Life's an amazing journey. He says that it begins with the little seeds. Many others will help it grow, but you are the captain, so you take the lead, which I thought was very interesting. This is stressed the importance of doing things for yourself, and that's a very important lesson that that a teacher can stop right at that point and talk about it, how important it is. And it goes back to education too. You have to be prepared for that life's journey too, I think.
Agreed.
Well, the last page has the illustration. He's arriving home, and the family is welcoming him. The ship IOU is docking, and the young man says, "So we all have a life ship filled with a special crew. What's your ship called? Mine is the IOU." That's right. Oh, and the last page is like a curtain call, I think. Everyone and everything represented in the book is there in the final scene. The family on the dock, and the lighthouse with its yellow beams leading him home, the whale that promised to help him is swimming around, and the port village is directed. And there's an IOU, a big IOU painted on the side of the ship. Yep. He has arrived home. But I was thinking about that yellow ribbon and the captain's hat that he wore. The young man wore a captain's hat with a yellow ribbon on him, and it is entwined throughout the stories. It's sort of interesting. At one point, it's flowing through the port city, but the yellow ribbon is intertwined. And while at sea, the yellow ribbon is still on his hat, blowing in the way. In a way, the ribbon seems to be sort of a symbol of his life ship's journey, and it's a connection. As do the yellow beams coming out of the lighthouse. There's colors are used for some symbols, I believe, in the book. And the yellow ribbon seems to represent freedom as well as a connection to his origins, which is the port town. When you read the book, I think there's a significance to the yellow ribbon that weaves through the book. And on the back cover, Dr. Joe wrote, "A child's journey through treacherous weather, high winds, and intimidating sea life on their IOU ship is using the support and knowledge already inside." In other words, one more time, a child's journey through the treacherous weather, high winds, intimidating seas on their IOU Life Ship is using the support and knowledge already inside. I react to the outward forces, the O, and then the U is seeing life in a whole new way. So inside, I react to outward forces, O, and seeing life in a whole new way can lead to incredible upward excitement, peace, happiness, and fun. That's the U. To sum up, IOU, inward, outward, upward living.
I really love the intentionality behind this book, because Dr. Joe's intention is to create excitement in the minds and hearts and the lives of children, to not only create excitement, but to be able to create peace and happiness and fun. And it's, especially when you're a child, even when you're an adult and you're starting something new, as many of our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, and of course our fellow shining stars actually know. I also love how Dr. Joe conveys encouraging kids about the journey, that the journey is not something to be feared. The journey is not something that, even if you have the fear, that the excitement is something to connect with more, but that if you're feeling insecure, if you're feeling a little anxious or sad or, wondering how things are going to go, you can start a conversation about it. And that's one of the great things about children's books, David, is that they're great. And now I always respectfully use the term from Mr. Rogers. He used the term resource of care. When he was speaking on Capitol Hill in front of, in Congress, Senator John Pastore, he called Mr. Rogers' neighborhood a resource of care. And I really believe that all children's authors, like Dr. Joe, they're all providing their own resources of care for children that can really be great conversation starters. And my IOU Life Ship, written by Dr. Joe Famularo, and again illustrated by Vytautis Bikauskis. That is our newest Lithuanian friend here at PR from the Heart and the Neighborly Reviews bookcast. If Amazon.com is your preferred online vehicle of choosing, as a little tip of the cap, of course, we like to be able to conclude that on each and every edition of the Neighborly Reviews bookcast. We give a little tip of the cap to our favorite neighbor, Mr. Rogers. Of course, David spent many years with him, many decades with him on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Of course, in his own private numerology, Fred, Mr. Rogers, always communicated his favorite three numbers, which were 1, 4, 3. 1 letter in I, 4 letters in love, 3 letters in you. That was his way of sharing I love you. Of course, we here at the Neighborly Reviews bookcast, because David, we're very pleased and pleasured and honored to be able to have him as our co-captain. There's another nautical reference here on the Neighborly Reviews bookcast, our way of expressing our gratitude to Mr. Rogers and all of you for your support here at the Neighborly Reviews. So again, we want to thank all of you for your continued support of PR from the Heart, your continued support for the Neighborly Reviews bookcast, for your continued support of children's authors and illustrators, such as Dr. Joe, who again are doing wonderful and much needed work for children, parents, families, and educators, and those who love great children's books. Thank you once again for helping us to walk home the children of the world, our fellow friends, our fellow neighbors, and our fellow shining stars. Goodbye for now.